Guiding your next pop culture journey, this is In Quest of Geek.
The best explorers and heroes must now arm themselves with the social, cultural, and emotional tools they'll need to delve deeper than they ever have before. This is our Dungeon Dive.
With you on this dive will be Alix, your host and professional moderator.
JPG, pop culture critic and geek educator.
And special guest adventurer, Andrew Linde.
So sharpen your social commentary and prepare the most inclusive spells, because we're here to build better character.
Welcome back, Brave Questers, on our newest dungeon dive, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But a dive this deep is going to need some outside help, and we have Andrew Linde to round out our party. Andrew, welcome back.
Hi, it's great to be back.
I gotta tell you, man, that episode you did with us for the Justice League Snyder cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, yeah, because we made.
Did you listen to the rules?
Yeah,
in
we
the
had to listen to
episode
the rules. We had to listen to the rules. Yeah, so Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh man, that was a ton of fun. So thanks again for being on.
Of course.
And for people who didn't listen to that episode, A, yell at them, and then B, tell them a little bit about yourself just so they can get to know you.
Yeah, well, I've been doing podcasts for a long time. I have two that I currently do. One's called Nothing New. It's about film remakes, and the other is called It's On My List, where it's me and a group of friends, and we watch movies that perhaps we've missed for some reason that people tell us to watch. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things in my life. I've written. I've just it's mostly podcasts at this point. That's the thing.
And that's why you're here with us today, because you're also a crazy geek, obviously.
Yeah.
So we brought you on for DC, and now we're bringing you on for Marvel.
Yeah, is this like a balance thing? This is.
Yeah, we have to go one for one every time. This is exactly why you're back on the show. Really, it's just because we wanted to subject you to something that was like almost 6 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So
every time I'm going to be on this show, it's going to be 4 to 6 hours worth of content that I have to digest and then be ready to talk about.
Yeah, the next time it's going to be that whatever that 8-hour endgame cut is.
Oh no.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. We just pick a random video game. JPG and I won't actually have a recording planned for it, and we'll just tell Andrew he has to play it for 6 hours.
Okay,
we'll just see what happens.
I mean, it depends on the video game. I might just want to play it anyway.
Oh, my plan backfired.
I know, now you're just giving him fun homework.
Look, I think the thing is your plan would backfire no matter what, because I'm just I watch so many movies and TV shows that are just, it's more movies than TV shows. But with the way that these Marvel TV shows are, they're kind of movies. It's a weird mix.
It is, right? Because they're really not TV showy.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not quite movie.
I would say with WandaVision, we got something much closer to a TV show because it was so rooted in the language of TV shows, of sitcoms. But with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's very much cinematic in a lot of the things that it does.
It's really funny because like you're walking into my first question right now. Which is, what the heck do we call this now, right? Because it's definitely hitting a lot of notes of cinema, but it's also hitting like the weekly feel of a TV show. But we're in this weird middle. And do you think that this is intentional? Or do you think like this is kind of like an experiment going right or wrong? Like, how do you feel about this TV cinema experience right now?
Well, my goodness. I think, when you look at the language of television and you look at the language of cinema, it's always, there are different techniques, there are different styles, there are different ways that things are communicated. But I think the reason why this feels so not like a TV show is because we've seen these characters in movies for years now, and so that's how we're used to seeing them. So seeing them in a TV show like this feels closer to a movie already. But I think, unless this thing is going to get a season 2, like, you can just call this a miniseries. Like, miniseries have been on television for a long time, and they always feel a little closer to a movie because they're usually telling something of a contained story, and their miniseries are like 4 to 6 episodes, and they're an hour long, and they don't have to follow like an episodic formula.
Right. I think the other thing we're seeing is the quality difference, and that could just be because it's Marvel money, but you're seeing quality filming and the money and the stunts and everything else that would be going into a film that's too expensive to do in a 30-minute episode, but they're doing it for these movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
Telemovie is a thing as well, but that's a
oh god.
Let's stick with the mini series on this one,
Okay,
just because
mini series.
Yeah. So thank you for framing it out for me, Andrew, because one of the best series that I've seen in the last couple of years is I know Alex hasn't seen this yet, but did you see the Watchmen series?
No, I kind of wanted to watch it because then I'd be the one who watches the Watchmen. But the
Bill. Show canceled. Let's go home.
I had heard a lot of good things about it, despite that is something. Watchmen was a comic that I read, like when I was 18. Like it's one of those where you're like, oh, I'm reading a graphic novel, and then you go and you see the movie, and you're like, oh, they didn't quite do it justice, but it's so cool that they made a movie of it. And now that this TV show is supposed to be like an entirely different experience, and I was like, that could be very interesting to reframe the whole story. That could be interesting. But yeah, I did not watch it.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I did want to say thank you for bringing out your proto pretension on this one. Mostly because everybody had that point, right? Like, if you're a nerd that's our age, you read Watchmen at 18.
Mm-hmm.
You idolize Fight Club or Memento.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, what are the other weird pretension points? Oh, you 100%ed Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, see, I never went that way, but sure. I was into the Nintendo things, so I did like the Zelda, like Majora's Mask. I was like, oh, wow,
okay, there you go.
That's so deep.
But I bring up Watchmen because that was 10 episodes. They never intended to have a second season. They announced a second season, and then they took it back because they're like, you know what? We're probably not going to be doing this again. And it was the most perfect miniseries I've ever seen. Right? I would say something that gets close to that is Lovecraft Country, another HBO series.
Is that only a miniseries too?
I thought that was going to get us another season.
It does get I think Lovecraft Country is going to get another season, but when is a miniseries I'm trying to think when a miniseries becomes a series or just or
I would say a mini is not intended for anything further than the one.
Okay, got it. So WandaVision.
WandaVision. I had heard something on another podcast I listened to where the way that WandaVision was submitted to awards in order to get nominated, they submitted WandaVision as a miniseries, but they'd submitted the Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a TV show. So they made a clear distinction there when they were trying to get awards.
Right, I was going to say that could just be, hey, we want both awards.
Yeah, that's very possible as well.
Because really, this one has less episodes than WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
So I would flip those if you have to do it. If you had to pick one, I would say this was more miniseries.
Yeah, I do wonder, though, if maybe the less episodes was because of... I know they had some delays in filming and post-production because of COVID. And I wonder if there was perhaps a storyline or some scenes dropped because of that.
I thought that there were rumors that there was a pandemic storyline inside of
Which
all
I
of this.
mean, that makes sense given the there is a couple of scenes in the show where it kind of feels like there's something we're not finding out about the refugees, you know? The way that Mama Donya dies felt always kind of like an unanswered question for me.
Hmm. I also feel like we've experienced this sort of halt in TV creation before, right? In 2008, I believe, was the writer's strike.
Yeah, there was a writer's strike, yeah.
Yeah, so then
Which killed heroes.
yeah, and killed a
Among
lot
other
of
things.
killed a lot of other shows as well. And we use killed in I use killed in a very liberal sense here, mostly because like just creativity stopped, and killed seems like a very good word for this, right?
Yeah, well, because I mean, to really just hammer it home, the idea of the writer's strike was if someone was part of the Writers Guild, they wouldn't write, so they had to get new writers or people who were willing to cross like a picket line. So it was very much like the creative teams that were behind these shows suddenly changed hands in a way where you could sense it on the show. I remember very specifically on Heroes, it was there was a character who had gone back in time, and instead of just doing a very quick like, oh, he does this thing and comes back to present day, he was stuck there for like 7 to 10 episodes, and it really just went nowhere.
There was like a circus arc.
Oh,
Also,
well, that was later. That was
yeah.
way after the writer's strike. We can't blame that on the writers.
I kind of blame it on the writer's strike. I'm going to blame any circus arc on the writer's strike at this point.
But yeah, I remember even hearing, like there were some sitcoms that were doing a lot more improvising because it was like, oh, instead of writing a script, we'll just have an outline. These people know how to do their characters, and I mean, look, all credit to actors where it's due, but they don't always know what to do with their characters when they're not given a script.
Right, or they don't know where their character is actually supposed to be going, and something they do or say could take it down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this kind of leads me to my next question, which is for the series in general, because that there were a lot of like COVID hurdles that they did have to try to get over and overcome. How did that kind of color your perception of how much you enjoyed or didn't enjoy the show? So, Alix, I'm going to start with you first.
I'm going to say no. I guess there's stuff that was missing from it, but for me, I didn't feel like stuff was missing from it. So I think the only thing for me is I kind of wish it had been longer, but I said the same thing about WandaVision. Like for me, I could just keep them as TV shows and be really happy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the next big movie, but I understand that like for the MCU, that's where the focus is, right? So I'm the minority, but it felt all really natural to me in the way that it was filmed. So I think they did a really great job with working around a lot of that.
Andrew,
if that made any sense.
Do you have a rebuttal, Andrew?
No, I think
fighting?
No, I'm actually I'm on the same page. I don't feel like that colored my enjoyment of the show at all. And maybe, if whatever rumor is true and they had to cut a planned pandemic arc on the show, maybe that was the smart move, because the what they already had going on with the dynamics of the political figures that were involved, while they never said, liberal or conservative or Democrat or Republican, they certainly touched on enough topics and enough points of view that I felt engaged, and it didn't feel like they were, capitalizing on any current day things. It just felt like everything was part of whatever planned plot they had. And on top of that, I didn't have any moments where I went, oh, this was clearly filmed in front of a green screen and the quality is so bad. Like I only just recently watched the Borat sequel,
I've never
and
seen either of
Yes,
there are
subsequent movie film or something like that.
yeah, and there were a lot of parts of that were definitely filmed in front of green screen because COVID happened while they were making it, and because that's it's a film that they kind of they make kind of undercover. They had to do a lot of tricks to make a coherent narrative. And then even in that, when COVID happens and they're like, oh, it's actually more important that I keep doing my prank movie instead of worrying about the safety of others. That colors my opinion of the film entirely, where I'm like,
Oh, okay.
like you're choosing to do your silly character instead of going, actually, people could die if I do this. Your message isn't that important, Sacha Baron Cohen. You can go sit down now.
I will say too, and I could be wrong here, but when we talked about WandaVision, at a certain point right at the end there, it felt like there were too many storylines and too many big bads and too many big issues. And it felt like they lost track of like, hey, this is the one beautiful story arc, and that's really all we needed. And I almost feel like by cutting out that stuff that they had to because of COVID, it almost saved the show because it let us focus on that one clean storyline. I didn't need anything else to get muddled in there. I only needed that one beautiful arc.
I do wonder if what we're going to be experiencing as time goes on is if we're going to just have kind of what I think of as like Iron Man 2 disease with these TV shows, where all the TV shows, they have a story, but they're also setting up so many other things. Like you said with WandaVision, that was clearly setting up a Captain Marvel tie-in, as well as whatever the future of Vision is, as well as we knew that Wanda is going to show up in the next Doctor Strange. And then here with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, well, my goodness, do we have a lot of things that we're getting set up. We have Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. We have what's going on with Sharon. We have they've said now apparently there's going to be another Captain America movie, and it's like, yeah, we have a new Captain America, so let's give him a movie. I don't know.
I wanted to go back to Alex's point about too many plot threads to follow, right? I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because of its nature, they had to pare down one or two plot lines that they thought they were going to be following. And I think, although I think the Falcon and Winter Soldier did a better job, I still think Marvel has this weird TV third act problem of trying to wrap up everything in the last episode, or to wrap up everything in the last two episodes. But it feels very rapid and disjointed whenever they try to wrap things up really quickly. And I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this, but I thought the last episode was a little bit unsatisfying in what it tried to wrap up.
And I knew I was going to be on the opposite side of you.
Okay.
It got bad ratings this last episode. I haven't seen a lot of good reviews about it, so I know I'm, again, the minority on this one, but I finally enjoyed the finale. I felt like that's how, not a season finale, but the mid-season break in a show?
Okay.
That's what this felt like. Whereas WandaVision felt like the plane crash in Grey's Anatomy, where it's like, we don't know what to do something big. This one felt like how a TV show kind of does things. We didn't all of a sudden have a new big bad out of nowhere. We wrapped up all the loose ends I felt like were there, and then created the next pieces of, hey, you want to see this stuff, come back for next season, or come back for the other half of this season. To me, it had more of a television feel to it. Andrew, what about you?
No, I was of two minds with the finale, because I do think they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. But I think for me, I really did want to know what was going on. I want to know so much more about Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. And I feel like just having her show up and then in one episode and then in the finale is not enough. I want her to be, I want there to be
That Agent
something.
Carter?
Huh?
Is
No,
that
that'd be the Contessa.
The Contessa.
Oh, the lady from Seinfeld.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I mean, you know what? I appreciate the cultural touchstone. You
The
got
lady
it.
Beep?
You got it,
yeah,
Alex.
yeah, you got it. But I do think she is kind of drawing on like a Veep-like character, which is so interesting to put into the Marvel universe like this. And I think her character is so different from any other character that we've seen so far that even the closest comparison I can pull is the Robert Redford character from The Winter Soldier, where
Oh,
it's like, this kind of someone who's involved in these government affairs, but is kind of working on their own angles. And so it's so interesting to see her play that character, because it does feel like a reference to Veep, because Veep was about, how government really sucks. if you've watched all of Veep, that message was really hammered home. But it's like she's, as far as we can tell, she doesn't have any superpowers, so clearly she's just well connected. It's kind of the similar thing to the way that they use Zemo in the show. Baron Zemo was, not just like a cartoonish villain like he is in the comics with his silly purple outfit. He, actually had influence and money and knowledge of things going on in the world where he could get things done. Like he he was able to get them into places, and have things that they couldn't have gotten any other way. And he, at one point, they asked, how do you have so much money? And he says, I'm a baron. Like, what do you expect?
that was kind of like a hard pill to swallow for me. Being a comics fan and then being a fan of the MCU, it was just I felt I had a problem with how some characters were portrayed in this. And I think this is coming from both a personal and a historical stance, I guess. But yes, I understand that Zemo is a baron in the comics, but then how Civil War had framed him, he was like this like shady spec ops dude who lost his family. And then out of nowhere he's like, "Aha, I had money all this time." And there was like a private jet for them and all that, and
The show
I
did have a little bit of shark repellent.
everybody just had something to help them on
Oh,
their cause at
yeah,
that time.
definitely.
Yeah.
When the Wakandans gave him new wings, I was like, okay, so just the Wakanda's got everything. Like,
Yeah, and okay, so I have an example of this for almost every character, right? I mean, Zemo just turning out to be a baron and being super rich, even though he was part of like shady spec ops sort of stuff for a poor Eastern European country, I guess.
Mhm.
We have Sharon Carter, who comes back and I was really excited to see. No, but she has been this like super shady operative in Madripoor. And then, spoilers, at the end of this, we find out that she's actually the power broker.
Well, yeah, I saw that coming.
Did you really? I was very shocked by it.
Really?
I was okay. Do you want to? I'll tell you who I thought the power broker was going to be.
All right, who was it?
Well, I was expecting there to be a new character reveal, and it wouldn't be someone that we'd already met, and that I was kind of thinking like it would be like they would, because here was my, if Claw had survived Black Panther, you remember Claw? He had the like claw hand. If he had survived Black Panther, I would have expected it to be him, because he was involved in kind of shady dealings and getting access to weird advanced weapons that he shouldn't have had access to. But then I thought, well, they never said he didn't have a son or a family. So I thought maybe it was going to be like Claw's son or something, because Claw is such a character in the comics that is always fighting against the Wakandans. I thought that's so odd that they would kill him in Black Panther. Just have Claw too. Why not?
So the way I looked at it, and maybe this is the whole like female standpoint thing, but your main characters were two men.
Mm.
And then when they broke a villain out of jail and it's another man. And so I kind of had a feeling they were going to surround us with as many women as possible to make sure that there's like the representation thing.
That's true. We haven't even spoken about Carly yet.
Right.
Who's a gender swapped character from the comics. And then there's when Wakanda comes into play, it is the Dora Milaje.
Dora Milaje.
Yeah. And that's all women. So you are, I mean, you're right on it, Alex. I swear. that is a good, maybe there's something to that.
Alex, I can't wait until you write season 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I got you.
Or Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Because that was the fun reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I was like, what?
Okay, so
Captain America is Winter Soldier. I got very
going back to Sharon Carter as the power broker, I have a problem. I don't know, like a lot of people have told me that I was wrong on this opinion as well. I just thought Sharon Carter being like an agent of the state and then like doing everything right and then going on the run for 2 years. In that 2 years, yes, I can imagine somebody just becoming like a pure straight up villain. But Sharon Carter? Really?
I mean, why not? She fought so hard for her country. Her mom fought so hard for this country, and then they just turned their backs on her and then didn't care about her. They abandoned her.
Wait, not mom, aunt.
Aunt, whatever.
Right? Do they ever actually answer that if that's her mom, aunt, great aunt, or great grandma? It's very unclear, but Steve definitely kisses 2 women in the same,
family tree.
Well, I guess maybe he never does. He doesn't. Well, what happens with Peggy in the time, the time delusion, whatever that is?
You know what? I'm not even going to go into the whole Captain America goes back in time to live out his life
with Peggy Carter, meaning that maybe he is actually Sharon's uncle, grandpa,
Father,
and kissed her in the past, which was his future.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Okay.
We'll ignore that part.
If we're going to be bad-mouthing Captain America, I'm just going to quit this podcast.
So
right
no
now.
wonder Sharon turned evil.
I know, right? Yeah. It's just all the...
A lot of feelings there. But
because I am the kind of person that when Endgame was over, I was like, Bucky deserves the shield. And then he goes and he gives it to Sam, and then Sam gives it to Museum, and then the Museum gives it to a bad man.
I want to bring that up too, because
let's go into it.
In one of the episodes, I think it's the second to last episode, when Bucky kind of, his exterior shell is broken down and he helps out. He helps Sam and his family build back up the boats. Bucky gets to flirt with Sam's sister, which now I think Bucky might have a type, you guys.
Why? Who was the other girl?
Because he spent all that time in Wakanda.
Oh my God.
And then the only person that he actually is attracted to is Sam's sister. So
just because they have a flirty look, and then Sam says, "Don't date my sister." That's like, look, I'm just gonna call it out. It's just a TV show being extremely heteronormative. Okay.
Okay, that's fair. But I did like it.
In a lot of TV shows, when a man and a woman are on screen and they're single, it's everyone wants them together. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Which definitely problematic, but also let me have this one.
I wanted him to get with he went on that little half date with the Asian lady that he left.
I thought that was kind of awkward. And now like he can't go to that restaurant anymore. I feel kind of bad about it. But
he can't. That's true.
In that episode, right? Bucky does admit to Sam that it was Steve included him in that decision in order to give him the shield.
Mm.
But then they outright forgot about the fact that he is black in America. And Bucky apologizes for that, right?
Right.
Now, I guess like my next question is, leaning on scenes like this, how would you rate Falcon and the Winter Soldier when it comes to dealing with issues of race?
10 out of 10.
I don't think it's my place to rate it as a white man, but Because
for the sake of the mental argument right now, Andrew, we're
what
like as the Asian guy and the Jewish woman on this podcast, we're giving you a pass right now, okay?
I know you're giving me a pass, but that doesn't mean the listeners are giving me a pass. And I want them to know that I care about them and their opinions, and they don't have to care about my opinion. But since you asked, what I will say, I'll put it more this way, where I actually was in those kinds of scenes, the ones where it was Sam talking to what was it, Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradley.
Right? Where those scenes I was much more into, and those felt very real to me. Where it's this idea of, Sam is young and idealistic, at least younger than this man who is probably like 100 years old, like quite literally. Because if he is, I kept thinking like Isaiah's makeup looked a little much to me, but then I kept remembering, right, he's supposed to be like 100 years old. Because
we don't really know how they age, but we know it takes forever.
Yeah, because especially when you look at the way that they did Cap, Steve in Endgame, in his little moment where we see him as old, he's like 112 there, and he just looks kind of like maybe 80. So it's very much like aging looks funny there. But in those scenes where those two characters spoke, I felt that was handled very well. And then even in the finale, when Sam gives his speech, on live TV, where he says how hard it is and how, no, who is anyone even trying to make the world better? You sit in your rooms and you make it better for people like you, but not people like me. I thought this is, they actually are addressing these issues in a way that I think will connect with people and won't sound like a lecture or won't sound fake or phony. So while I don't think I should be the one to rate this. Yeah, I'd rate that pretty high. Like that felt like it was baked into the show and was something that they did very well every time it came up.
JPG, I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
I describe myself as and I'm sorry, Anthony, in advance, but I describe myself as a liberal piece of and I say that very affectionately, in the sense where, one of the things that's going to be important to me is when we do talk about race, you go as hard as possible. Do I think that they went as hard as possible? No. But do I think that this was the way to get the conversation going? Yes, definitely. I had a little bit of a problem with the end speech with Sam and talking to those people in the government, right? But I also realized that I had a problem because I felt like he didn't go hard enough, and I felt like it was a little bit finger waggy and holier than thou, and like, it's hard to be a black person. You need to make it better, and I'm gonna fly away, right?
See, here's where I disagree with you, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to disagree with you.
Well, no, I think what I have to personally remember, right, is we need to start the conversation somewhere. And what Marvel is doing so well, especially with their TV, is they are bringing entertainment and they're bringing stories to a general audience, as opposed to comic books in general like, wake up, you guys. Like, whoever doesn't think this is crazy, but comic books have always been left-leaning in the sense where they are always going to talk about social issues, cultural issues, things like that, right?
Right.
We are bringing that feeling of over almost 100 years of comic books into the general audience. And I have to remind myself, this is the first time that a lot of people are going to be seeing this. And this could be the right amount to get the conversation started. Now, did I want him to go harder? Yes. But I think it's going to be the best way to start the conversation.
I do. If I may, I think what you're saying is very true, in the sense that there's also this idea that when things are shown in media, on TV, in movies, in comic books, wherever, it is like the media always comes before the reality. Like, there's always this idea, like they they've been, doing TV shows and movies about, oh, what if there was a woman president since like the 70s and 80s?
Mhm.
And it's taken this long for even there to be anything close to that happening. We finally have a female vice president in America. So it's like it takes that long for even that to come out. So the fact that here is an extremely mainstream, TV show talking about anything close to an issue that has been affecting people for decades, is kind of like, I'm like, this is progress. Anything is progress at this point. But yeah, and I do think I was even very happy to hear Sam say, stop, you need to stop calling these people terrorists. It's a matter of perspective. I thought that line, I was like, I'm so shocked that even made it into the show. Like that,
I really
that really felt like a.
I was gonna say I really want to come back and talk about the terrorist thing. But Alix, I did want you to say your piece on how race was treated during the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I'm probably closer to where Andrew stands than where you stand in what I'm probably allowed to say or not allowed to say. But when you're looking at the comments and you're looking at social media and you're looking at the big picture of where we are in the world, yes, I want to throw it in people's faces and I want to just shake them awake with like, hey, this is the reality of what's going on. But that's not how people listen and that's not how people learn. And so what I think this show did really, really well is they didn't hide it. They didn't sugarcoat it. They didn't, oh, we're kind of going to touch on it and then we're going to walk away really fast. They were upfront about it. Hey, this is a racial issue. It started with, oh, it's Black Falcon. Why? Why can't it just be the Falcon? Oh, it's Black Captain America. Why can't it just be Captain America? Right? So just in those little moments was the start of it, but they didn't just stop there. They made it a full storyline. They gave him a full speech. I thought that speech was fantastic because it wasn't yelling or shaking somebody to the point where if you push too hard, somebody's instantly going to go defensive and they're not going to listen. And so for me, that was like a solid, they were right at the level they were supposed to be to make it possible for everybody to hear them. And I think it's a little unfair when we're looking at these characters and we're looking at the storyline. This is a 6-episode series, but because it's a lead Black man, and I know I've said this before, but it's a lead Black man, there's all this pressure on him to make sure he says something, to make sure there's representation, to make sure he does it right, to make sure he gets the right story out there that isn't on white actors, that isn't on white stories. And so as much as we can talk about it or discuss it or break it down, that was already an extra weight and an extra responsibility. And I'm so proud that they took advantage of that and put it out there and didn't just, yeah, well, yes, but that's not important to this story. They didn't do that. And I'll step off my high horse now.
No, I want to make it clear that I do agree with the both of you. I guess now that I think about it, I am definitely speaking from a place of race, because we're always going to be seen as a monolith, right? Like Sam Wilson as a character was always going to be seen as Black Captain America, and you have to do good because you're representing the Black population, right? It's the same exact thing when the Shang-Chi trailer just released, right? Releases in September, and as an Asian person, all of my hope and faith are going into that film being just as good as Black Panther, because the only way that we are going to be accepted by a general audience if it is as good as Black Panther. And then once again, we have to compare one ethnic. I mean, I'm not even going to call it an ethnic film. It's like you're calling it's one racially led film having to be compared to another racially led film.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and I want to say
same.
that it is,
no, it's the same thing that's happening where people are comparing Minari to Parasite. It's like, this is not the same. Minari is an American movie.
Yeah.
Parasite is from Korea. Like this is just because they see Asian leads, they're like, oh yeah, the same. It's like, no, that's not how that works at all.
But even with like the overarching feeling, right? we are going to see people naturally compare Black Panther to Shang-Chi. We are going to naturally have people compare Black Panther to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? And it's awful because we are, as a race, we are always seen as these monoliths of like, one person has to do good, and if you don't do good, you're representing all of us. Is that wrong? Of course it is. Will people inevitably do it? Yes. And I'm hoping that as we go on, we can have the patience and the wherewithal to weather the storm of these critics that are going to be pitting us against each other. But then also give the openness and space, because I cannot wait to see how hard they go in Falcon and Winter Soldier Season 2 or Captain America and Winter Soldier. I cannot wait to see how hard they go on there.
Can I bring up something else while we're discussing all this?
Sure.
There was a quote, and I pulled up the quote specifically for this style of conversation. But I just want to point out you have two characters who fought in World War II, right? We've mentioned the Nazis multiple times, but there's a quote that he says, and about people being superior. And he talks about it's what led to the Nazis, it's what led to Ultron, and it's what led to the Avengers. But in all of this, every time we've seen Nazis come up, everything we've done through the MCU, there's not been a Jewish perspective. You have characters who were there. You have characters who were fighting. You have characters who are part of Hydra that built off of that. But we still haven't had that perspective. And I think that needs to be acknowledged, because yet again, we're seeing it over and over and over with no sign of, oh yeah, my great-grandparent or my whoever was in it. Or, Bucky saying he was there. Yeah, he was there and he saw it and he fought it. But then, I don't know. I felt like that was lacking for me. And of course it's because it affects me, but I just felt like there's a voice or a perspective or an angle or something that just doesn't get said, doesn't get acknowledged.
Well, I think that's because they're the most well-known Jewish character Marvel isn't allowed to use, and that's the thing. Sorry.
No, you're right, but then why not? We've changed man to woman, we've changed white to black.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they could definitely do that.
Let's do this,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a I can see why they haven't done it yet, but you're 100% correct. It is a complete it is like just a void of where they're talking all around the issue, but they're not getting right to the heart of it. Because I wonder if part of it is the way that they use kind of made up country names or made up like Sokovia or Madripoor. Like they'd much rather have like a fake identity that they can point to rather than using a real life identity and possibly
offending somebody.
Someone. Yeah.
How were there no Asian people in Madripoor? It was one of the biggest things that bothered me, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, it's in the Indonesian archipelago. And I'm like, cool, we're going to see Asian people. Nope, not a one, right? That bad
not
guy
even
was...
in the fight?
Wait, what?
I thought there was some in the fight.
Well, there was an Australian Asian person that was on the quote-unquote terrorist group, but I definitely want to spend some time on that. But so during Madripoor, yeah, you see them in the background, but like even all the main bad guys, nobody was Asian. It was like this like weird Irish lady, or I don't know what accent that is. But yeah, that really bothered me about Madripoor. I just had to say my piece about that.
While we're saying our piece about things, can I just say I was annoyed that they killed Battlestar. That was very much, like, oh, here's another our Captain America has a black best friend who is his sidekick. Oh, and he died. Like,
yeah,
just
that's
really, yeah,
wasn't great.
The only thing that was missing from that stereotype was making them also LGBTQ plus.
Oof,
yeah. Big oof,
big oof. Alex, that was too real.
Would it have been? I mean, if they had gone when he goes and visits the parents, if they had like some kind of indicator that they were Jewish, would that have been too much?
Oh,
Just tie it all in there.
So, okay, I gotta get to this, right? Because I think what we need to talk about, I think we need to talk about the quote unquote terrorists, and I think we need to talk about John Walker as a whole as well.
Oh yeah, we should probably. I guess he's important to the story.
I know. Which one did you guys want to talk about first, John Walker or the terrorists?
Oh, I never want to talk about John Walker.
So the terrorist it is.
So, oh gosh, Carly's group. What is so the Flag Smashers, right?
Flag Smashers.
So first off, thank you, Andrew, for pointing out that Carly Morgenthal's character, played by Erin Kellyman, that she was gender swapped for this as well. And this is a legitimate question, right? And I have a little bit of an answer for this, but I need you both to walk me through it. Why are we supposed to think that these people are bad guys?
They do that by having them kill somebody.
Yes.
Well, that happens a little later than they're already branded, as terrorists, but it's kind of like, they're going against the government, and that's always going to get you marked as a bad guy.
Okay, so what I hate about these types of storylines, right? They kind of do the same thing with Killmonger and Black Panther. Is that anytime we think that the bad guy may be right, they do something that where the motivations aren't quite there, but it turns the audience against them, right? Somebody coined this term for it, and I can't remember who it was, but it was the idea of dissonant violence, right? This person you're starting to agree with until they kill somebody innocent and randomly. And we get that scene with the Flag Smashers where she just keeps those people there and just murders them while they're all tied up.
Yeah, she does say the only language that they understand is violence, which is kind of a point of view that's been held by different groups throughout the years, where it is the idea that governments are already so violent that the only thing that they would recognize is a similar display of violence. So, there's a history to her line of thinking, but it is definitely out of nowhere in the story.
And I get why, right? You're trying to connect her cause to other real life or other fictional causes that we are supposed to hate as an audience, right? But my whole thing is they made the point that she had never killed anybody before this. They were just stealing items in order to get back to refugees. And then when they're finally on screen a couple episodes later, she like kills a bunch of people who are absolutely helpless.
Part of me wonders if there was a piece, now that I know that a piece was taken out, part of me wonders if something that was taken out would have led her to that moment, because I feel like there needed to be a catalyst, and we didn't have the catalyst to get us there.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what I mentioned Mama Donya, which is she was so upset by that death of this woman. I wondered if maybe there was some implication in a cut storyline that the government had poisoned a whole town or country or something.
Oh.
And she seemed to blame specifically what are they called? The GRC?
The GRC or the GRC.
Yeah.
She seemed to blame them for everything that was going on in her life.
They highlighted a lot of their flyers in every scene that we went to that location.
And so it seemed like maybe they had come in
and released something,
done something, like promised that they would help this area, and then completely destroyed it instead. Yeah, that's not in the show. That's the thing. We're just kind of going, oh, I guess she's mad at them because they didn't help. Like that's kind of the way the show takes it.
I also just appreciate the fact that at the end of the day, Sam took their side.
Well, he definitely says, like, I understand why you're mad, but we can't do it like this.
Well, even at the end in his speech, he never turned on her, really. He was still like, she didn't go about it the right way, but she was right.
I am pretty bummed out. I'm pretty bummed out that they did kill her. I think she's an incredible actress who's really going to blow up soon.
The thing is about the way that she was killed off in the show was also kind of the coward's way out. I know that it plays into the fact that her and Sharon had like a history or something, but it's the idea that Sam is fighting his first battle as Captain America against an enemy that will not relent. And how is he going to get out of this, fight? How is he going to take her down without killing her? Because he doesn't want to believe that Zemo is right. Zemo said the only way is to kill her. And then another character kills her for him. And that's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's wrapped up then.
I liken it to when bad guys at the end of children's films fall off of the cliff and then you never see them die, but it's heavily implied.
Well, yeah, and it's always by their own. They're always the one that goes out on a branch that's rickety.
Exactly.
They're like, I can't. I'll stay away from you. And they're like, don't go. The hero's like, don't go out on that cliff. It's gonna fall. And then they fall and die.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
But hear me out.
Bullets are the cliff in this scenario. So.
What if this is Game of Thrones? Because we never actually saw her die. She just passed out. People pass out.
She got shot and then taken away in an ambulance, and then Sam said she died. But she does have the super soldier serum in her, or some version of it.
She does.
She passed out from bullets, Alex. Like, what is that? What is that? What we're hoping for?
But he got her to an ambulance, right? So there's the off chance that she gets so big they Game of Thrones this. I mean, it is comic books. How many people have died and come back?
Yeah, and that stupid
not
Tony
exactly
Stark
in
thing
movies.
that happened. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, but not exactly in the movies have they died and come back. Just in the papers,
And I was gonna say that stupid Tony Stark thing that's going around LA right now. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh gosh, there's somebody paid for a billboard about bringing Tony Stark back to life and like how Marvel stuff isn't as good without him, and it was like this whole thing, and like it really like framed Iron Man as this like ridiculous white savior. But I'm like, yeah, he was great, but he was like not one of my favorite characters.
I had a feeling that was going to happen with Steve Rogers. I think people are going to push and push and push, and not because they didn't like John Walker, because really he had a punchable face and he was made for you not to like him from the start. And same thing you mentioned earlier, they made sure he did something insane so that you, even though you felt for him, you couldn't root for him.
Well, I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're jumping into John Walker right now, first and foremost, this is one of the best ways that we can show people how the military just throws away their own people. Right? Like, the guy obviously had awful PTSD, was still serving, is still trying to do what's right, and then at every turn, he's either praised as he's praised as a hero, and at the same time seen as the villain if he makes one slip up, right? I felt for John Walker in that sense. I also feel for John Walker in the sense where, he's played by Wyatt Russell. And man, the idea that this dude just knocked it out of the park so hard that he got death threats for being like terrible Captain America, like that cracks me up.
Not the death threat part.
Not the death threat, but like that he was so good that regular people are like, "You suck, I'm gonna kill you," and he's like, "No, dude, I'm just playing a role on TV." Wait, what?
That was my job. I was meant to suck.
Yeah, I was literally do you get it? I did that, and I did it to the best of my ability, so I did it. Hooray, And then I also completely forgot that Wyatt Russell is Kurt Russell's kid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Kurt Russell is his dad.
His dad played Ego, the planet or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
that was rough.
So with John Walker, right? I think my question for this would be like, how were we supposed to take his representation, right? Was it supposed to be like, hey, he's this lone wolf that's going to be getting the shield? Or were we supposed to see him as an extension of the American government? Or were we supposed to see him as an extension of American ideals in this season?
Oh my goodness. That's a heavy question.
I know. What do you think this show is for, Andrew?
But I think I really hate to do this to your question. I think it's coming at this at the completely wrong angle. I
Ooh.
think
Course correct me, Andrew, please.
yeah, I think if you have to look at it in a certain way, in the narrative of the show, it was supposed to show that you can't just give the shield to the next blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. That's not going to cut it. You know, it's when Steve Rogers became Captain America, you know, it wasn't like someone handed him the shield and said, "Hey, here you go." He earned it through a series of trials and a series of, you know, things that he had to do. And even when he was Captain America, he was a symbol first before he was a soldier. Like he, you know, it was kind of a weird
those events and shut them off.
And so when you have this one, it's coming at it, and then within the universe, the way that they picked this Captain America, John Walker, was they did it the opposite. They wanted someone who was a tactician and a soldier before being a symbol. And so that's kind of where it loses all of its meaning, because Captain America has to stand for something greater than himself and the accomplishments of those around him. He has to be an ideal, a moral, something like that. And so that's where they really, I think, in the universe, that's where they got in trouble. But in the narrative of the show, you know, I believe the writer or the director who worked on all of the episodes had said the point of the show is to answer the question, who deserves to become the next Captain America? And when you look at, you know, as the way the show is structured, it's, you know, Sam is humble and passes on it in a sense, doesn't believe he can take it up and be it.
Doesn't believe anybody should.
Yeah. And so it becomes this thing of, well, who gets to decide? Oh, well, sure, the government does, I guess. And so they pick someone just because they can. And then it's well, does he deserve it? And of course the show answers that question. No, he does not deserve that shield. John Walker should go back to a hole or something and just stay there, because he's worthless. I hate him.
When you look at him on paper, though, right? Everything they listed, look at his years of service, look at how many medals he's won. I mean, of course, if you're looking at it from the government standpoint, inside the storyline, inside the universe, he's an easy choice.
Yeah, let me tell you something a teacher told me years ago, and it was very funny. On paper, like if you look at a resume for the character Homer Simpson from The Simpsons, he sounds like he's the most amazing man. Like he's gone to space, he's done all these weird heroic things in different episodes of The Simpsons. But if you talk to him, it's Homer Simpson. He's an idiot. Like it is not. So it basically proves that they never talked to this John Walker. They never figured out what his personality was.
Or they didn't care.
That's also possible.
Yeah, because I think this is what I was trying to get my question to, right? Is I think how they picked Captain America in this, we get hints about it, but it's very much the ideal of what have you like there was like this weird gap between what he has already done and what they thought he could do for the country, right? Look at all these amazing things that John Walker has done under his service. Now we're just going to amplify that by giving him the shield, and he's going to somehow like be this symbol of hope. And you know, when John Walker's talking to Battlestar, they have this whole conversation of like, look how many medals we won, but you remember what we had to do for this stuff, right? And yeah, I think that's a really great distinction. What we see on paper and what we see in real life, like there's not a there's not a throughway, right? I think back to the first Captain America film, and Steve isn't taken for the potential that he has. He's taken for the actions that he's taken in front of everyone else, right? Never quit. Didn't kill anybody yet for the cause or anything like that. While I think John Walker's. I'm sorry.
jumped on a grenade.
Yeah. And I think John Walker is the exact opposite, right? He's proven himself, quote unquote, proven himself to the powers that be, and the powers that be think that that's enough.
Well, when you have a military person making the choice, they're going to choose it based on military things and military actions.
Yeah.
It's all from the perspective and the lens. And even that gets highlighted, right? When you guys are sitting in a room, do you have the people you're affecting in that room? Or is it just you guys looking for more of you guys?
Mm-hmm.
They made a choice based on, hey, this guy looks like us. He acts like us. His record is the same as us. So he's perfect. And the American people will instantly fall for him. Whereas when we see him at the end becoming the new Captain America, the rightful Captain America, the way Captain America should have been, I can already feel people judging me. I can already feel people don't like me. And then you step back into the real world, right? Back here where we are. And people instantly, oh, well, we need Steve Rogers back. Well, why? Why can't he do it on his own? Why do we need the white man to come back?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great, but his time is done. Let's move on.
There is a humility that was missing.
But I think it connects to the real world. I think that idea of, we're seeing it in the show. You have to have this white guy with blue eyes. What if that was a woman? Would people have been like, oh, yeah, go? No, same problem. People instantly would have shut it down. Oh, she's not strong enough. Oh, she's not tough enough. Oh, she couldn't do it.
I think there was a brilliance in introducing him in the second episode as well. Mostly because he's practicing how to say good morning. And it's for an appearance on Good Morning America.
You got so mad when that happened.
I was so mad. I felt that it was specifically engineered to make me angry during that moment.
Why did that make you angry?
Because the whole idea, right, is that Steve visits his own museum. A kid sees him and he's like, hey, yeah, it's me, but hey, keep real quiet about it and all that, right? He goes there in order to see his own history. He's not there to sign autographs or anything like that. Have we even seen Steve Rogers give an autograph?
I don't think so.
That's the first freaking thing that he does, right? And then there was in Game of Thrones, what was it? The Lannister dad talked about, if you ever have to tell somebody that you are the king, you're not really the king. And every time John Walker introduced himself, he's like, hi, John Walker, Captain America. If you have to tell people you're Captain America, you are not Captain America.
Well, okay, so there's two other things that really bother me about John Walker.
Mm-hmm.
One, well, this is specifically about the shield. That shield actually does belong to Wakanda, if you recall.
Yes! Oh my god.
So
I
the
was
fact
yelling
that America was giving it to another person was kind of like, hey, why doesn't Shuri or someone fly in here and go, nope, that's ours, bye.
I mean, it's that joke about when people are asking for stuff from the museums back and they're like, well, how would you feel if people just came into your country and took stuff? They're like, hello, that's your entire museum. Is like, nothing in the British Museum is filled with stuff from Britain. It's all stuff that's stolen.
The other thing about John Walker that bothers me, I mean, I guess this is, and not really John Walker, but specifically the way that they call him Captain America, they kind of, it's not like John Walker became an Avenger, right? Like, he was just kind of his own thing, going off with Battlestar,
Yeah, he was government specific.
Yeah, he wasn't, so it wasn't like, because I wondered, it's like, I kept thinking, like, are they going to mention, what's the Hulk up to? Like, he's the only one kind of left besides, I mean, Ant-Man's out there, but it's like Hulk is the OG Avenger.
I think that was definitely kind of a loose end somewhere, is we never really knew the way the government controlled this whole Captain America thing. There was never an acknowledgement of, well, where are the Avengers? Are there Avengers? Who's in charge of the Avengers? Is that a government decision? Or is that an Avenger decision? Should the Avengers have gotten to decide, like, hey, this is what happens with the shield now, because it's our team and our thing? But maybe that'll get more clear in the movie? There's a movie, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a film. I don't know if they're going to be continuing with more in the series, but in between the two, I don't know if I'd want to film. I think I might want more time with another series. What do you guys think?
Oh wow. I mean, I don't even know if I wonder if what is going on with Marvel and Disney in general is that they're recognizing that the power of these films at the box office is going to start going down, and they have more power in being a show that they can put on their streaming service and get that money directly, in that way. That's what makes me think they'll start doing less films or something like that. But I I mean, I'd watch a movie. Did either of you watch Agents of Shield?
I did until the hot guy died and then came back, and then I was like, this is too dumb. I'm out.
I got up to the Ghost Rider arc, and then we lost Cable.
Yeah, I managed to watch all of it, and it's unsatisfying in a sense. It's that's what makes me. It's the way that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a show works is on such a different level than Agents of Shield ever worked. And I wonder if this is just the new way that TV is going to be made, and be instead of focusing on like an episode arc, or like something like the term of like monster of the week, like instead of doing with like a villain of the week, it's just the way that Marvel is going to be making these shows is always going to be, oh, here's 6 to 10 episodes that are very focused on something, and you'll get a pretty complete story, and the effects will look good, unlike a lot of Agents of Shield special effects did not look good.
Right. See, I would be okay with that. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's a show called Why Women Kill. And it was like 8 or 10 episodes. It's incredible. I highly recommend it. And they said there's going to be a second season, but an all new cast. And because of that, they were able to use all these really big names because they only had to do this 10 episodes, and it had a complete beginning and a complete end. It was a full story. Sorry, complete middle, complete end. It was a full story, and I almost see that this could pull off that same thing, where yes, this was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then the next one we see is the new Captain America, and then the next one we see is maybe it's Loki, but then the one after that is Loki and Thor. They don't need to be. I don't need a 24 season Agents of Shield crap all over again. I really don't. But I think they could pull it off in multiple miniseries. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that's the way they should go if they're going to do TV stuff. Because it definitely, even the Netflix method got a little tiring, because that was they were so stuck into a formula of kind of breaking out the seasons into 2 halves, and having a villain in the first half and a villain in the second half, and sometimes they team up and sometimes they fight, and it was like, okay, I remember several times thinking like, okay, there's not enough steam left to keep this going for 5 more episodes. And they do it, and it was kind of like, okay, you did it. What did you have to prove there, Daredevil season 2? Like,
okay, wait a minute.
Nope.
We're trying to wrap this up, and then you're gonna drop a bomb like that right now.
You are not allowed to fight when we're already past the hour mark.
Fine, okay. We're gonna talk about this off air.
Thank you, Andrew, for doing this episode with us. Apparently, we're never having you back because of your season.
I have to admit, I am emotionally exhausted from this. From this whole conversation. We talked about like military, like race, terrorism. Oh my gosh, like this was a lot, you guys.
This was a lot to take in. But Andrew, where could people find you if they wanted to hear more from you?
Oh my goodness. Well, my podcasts are Nothing New, a remake podcast that you can find that as part of the Benview Network, benviewnetwork.com/nothingnnew. And it's on my list at itsonmylistpod.com. And I'm always on Twitter and Instagram at Podcaster Andrew.
And JPG, you're going to be on there soon, right?
Yeah, are we allowed to talk about this right now, Andrew?
Or am I not
Yeah,
allowed
you'll
to-
be in the what we were, the May episode of Nothing New, where we will be talking about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm the only person that they found that legitimately loves the first film.
I believe the last time you were on Nothing New, you said I need to be on your Mortal Kombat episode.
I think I did actually say that on air. That's really funny.
Yeah.
And since we aren't doing a Mortal Kombat episode for Quest, I highly recommend people keep an eye out for it and check that out when it comes out. And we'll share it in our stories, so don't worry. Guiding your next pop culture journey, this has been an episode of In Quest of Geeks Dungeon Dive Edition.
Please check out our weekly Dungeon Dive and Tavern Team episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and any other podcatchers. And make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe.
If you'd like even more adventures with us, our bi-weekly actual play RPG is in the same feed under Issues, where you can listen to us play as teen superheroes using the Masks A New Generation system.
Please follow us on social media at InQuestAGeek.
And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly Twitch streams at twitch.tv/InQuestOfGeek. And as we cross another dungeon off our list, here's what you can expect from our next episode.
I am not as excited for this as I thought I was going to be. But Alix is making us buy Pokemon Snap for her. So we're doing a full episode about the new Pokemon Snap that comes out on April 30th.
This was such an accusatory statement.
It is an accusatory statement because I really didn't want to buy this. And then you put an entire episode around it, which is really like a funny way of you getting back at me for telling you that I didn't want to buy it.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's definitely not like I add avocado to things I don't want to share with you.
You're the worst.
Thank you for listening, Brave Questers. And remember, use what you've learned today to build better character.